What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Stocks with Mike and Tom show. The stock market went absolutely crazy today, and we have some big things to talk about in today's video. Square and Lucid just reported earnings. They're going crazy in after hours. We also have some pretty big news related to the market overall, and of course, the Elon and Twitter situation. So we have some important things to talk about today. Make sure to stick around to the end. But Tom, fill us in.
Yeah, definitely, Mike. So Twitter had a really good day today despite the overall market. So we can see that the SPY was really down today. Obviously, the FOMC played a big role in the market yesterday, but it gave back all of those gains. And Twitter's stock is holding up as news came out today, Mike, that Elon Musk will be the interim CEO for a little while once the Twitter deal actually goes through. And this is great news because people were really kind of wondering, hey, is Elon Musk going to keep Parag in there, or is he going to go ahead and, become CEO himself, or is he going to put in somebody else? There was kind of that outlier there, but it's really cool to see that he's going to be the CEO for a while. I think this really helped their stock today, obviously, and I really hope that Elon can get some stuff done. I know that he's a pretty workful person, Mike. He gets a lot of stuff going in the background and everything like that, and I really feel like he's gonna, set his mind to this and maybe get Twitter going here over the next few months.
Here we go. Let's take a look at that Twitter stock. So, like you said, it had a decent day today, especially on a day where almost every other stock sold off big time.
Yeah, it was huge today. Every other stock was down, like you said, SPY. Only a couple stocks like Oxy, RUN, AbbVie, only a couple stocks stayed up in the green today. Almost everything was in the red. Even the value plays like Walmart, Pepsi, KO, the big banks like JP Morgan were down. Of course, the growth plays were down. We had some stocks like NEO down 15% today. Square was down 10% before earnings tonight. Unity's down. If you can pretty much name any stock you want, it was down. Even good old Tesla down 8.3%. So definitely a great movement today, Mike. And looking at Twitter here, it kind of consolidated at $50 towards the end of the day. So maybe $50 will hold up as a good support for tomorrow.
Alrighty. So I know you mentioned Square and a couple other of those earnings plays. Square, it's all over the place in after hours. It is uptrending a little bit. How are their earnings?
Yeah, I will say, Mike, their earnings were not the best, but not the worst. Their year-over-year numbers are pretty good. So we can see in their shareholder letter here that they did have great gross profits of $1.29 billion, up 34% year over year. But keep in mind their net income, or I should say their net loss, was $204 million. So it does seem like that they're growing at quite a good pace with their profit. Obviously, their revenue hasn't been the best, though. But the cool thing, Mike, is that their apps are doing quite well. So Square itself, you can see on the chart down here, has been steadily going up. Cash App had a big jump up this quarter, which was cool. And their EBITDA or EBITDA right here has a nice uptick compared to Q4. So that's good to see.
Yeah, so it was not good to see their revenue declining, but it was good to see their profit increasing. So that's interesting. It was a mixed earnings release. The stock is moving okay in after hours right now, but as of right now, it looks like it's going to open very flat. It closed at around $95 a share. It went all the way down to 91 and then all the way up to 104, and now it's back down to like 97 or so. So it looks like a pretty flat earnings release. But Tom, can you zoom out on Square chart really quickly? Because I just want to demonstrate how much this company and how much this stock has been growing over the past couple of years. Like it has been very respectable.
Yeah, it really has. Like if I go out on like a 5-year basis here and I go back to like 2018, 2017, you can see Square was all the way down around $17 and it's all the way up to like 95 or 100 right now. So definitely some big moves there, Mike, over the past few years. And what's very interesting is that Square's CEO, Jack Dorsey, recently left Twitter of all things. We just talked about Twitter. He actually left Twitter to go focus more on Square. So very interesting. And then also, Mike, I saw that Jack Dorsey, or Square's CEO, is considering helping Elon Musk with Twitter here. It seems like he might actually help fund it by selling out of some shares in different scenarios like that.
All right, and let's also talk about Lucid earnings. This is an electric vehicle company, guys. It has had a lot of hype over the past year. It's also not really doing anything in terms of like after hours movement. Their earnings were, like they weren't the best. But their revenue did beat slightly. So they had a revenue this quarter of $57.7 million. And that did beat the estimate of $53.4 million. They also beat in terms of their EPS numbers, but Tom, they delivered 360 vehicles this quarter. 360, Tom. That's not good.
Man, those are rookie numbers, Mike. As we know from the Wolf of Wall Street, rookie numbers, 360 vehicles, that is nothing. And they have 30,000 reservations. I mean, they need to really up this production. I mean, the cars are cool. They won 2022 Car of the Year, I believe it was. And, they have a lot of different stuff going on. So as I'm looking at, Lucid, you would think, Mike, that their production would start to get a lot better, but it's not. It's still stagnant, and it obviously might start increasing over the next couple of years, but for right now, we're just not seeing it. And obviously their stock has been tumbling. I remember, Mike, their last earnings didn't go too well either as far as production, and their stock kept going down. So I really hope that the stock can start to do better, but I don't have good feeling, at least in the short term, with their price action, given these bad misses with their deliveries and then obviously production.
Yeah, so the good thing is that they do have $5.4 billion cash on hand, and they expect to produce around 12 to 14,000 vehicles for 2022, which is, it's okay. Obviously, they need to really get their stuff together, considering, one of their competitors, Tesla, is producing around 1 million vehicles a year. So, and it'll probably increase over time with all of these giant factories they're set to open and all that stuff. But they really need to get their production together, when we're looking at Lucid.
Yeah, they do. And as we can see, their price action just not really doing too much in after hours. I'm sure, Mike, Lucid was a pretty, I should say, like a pretty sought after stock the past couple of years. Like people have talked about it a lot, and it's had a lot of nice uptrends. But as we know, it's also had this severe downtrend that it's been in lately. So I'm kind of rooting for Lucid. I hope that they do better over the next year or two. But as of right now, they're obviously still in those beginning stages. But as we know, Mike, Tesla was also in these beginning stages at one point. So, maybe we'll see Lucid do better in the future. Obviously, it's going to be like a longer term outlook, though, with them. But Mike, we do have some big earnings tomorrow, and Mike, it's huge. We have DraftKings tomorrow, one of our favorite plays. It's went all over the place today. Initially falling down, had a nice pop up towards the end of day here. So this is going to be a big event for tomorrow. Look at their IV popping up into earnings. I mean, it's all the way up to 120% here at close.
Crazy. What other earnings do we have for tomorrow?
Nothing too crazy in the morning. Really just DraftKings. I will say we do have Under Armour, which is big. Goodyear Tires is also a pretty big stock, but keep in mind that one isn't too hyped up. There's not too much volume on them, but Under Armour is going to be pretty big. I know UA is an interesting stock to watch. They were also dipping down today in a big way, down 7.8%, but the main thing is going to be DraftKings. That's going to be a huge report to look at. Hopefully they report some nice growth here, and I'm kind of hoping that them opening up in New York is going to help them here over this quarter. So hopefully we see those numbers come in well. But as we know, Mike, doesn't DraftKings dip down a little bit in the first quarter usually?
Yes, but just a little bit. So basically here, I'm just going to pull up the dashboard really quickly so we can get the I guess you could say accurate data. We can see that normally the fourth quarter is the best for DraftKings. They're a cyclical business, just like many other companies are. And then the first quarter normally dips down just a little bit, but nothing too crazy. But I really would not be surprised at all if this upcoming earnings release has a slightly lower revenue than the previous one.
Yeah, that's going to make a big difference. And I hope that they still come in at expectations, obviously, and hopefully they report some nice revenue growth. That would always be good. Their year over year revenue has been growing at a pretty rapid pace. So I'd love to see the revenue come in there, Mike. And, I think that they could report good numbers. A lot of these companies have been doing pretty well this quarter. So I think they have a good shot.
Yep, we'll see. Alrighty, so Tom, let's also take a look at those rising interest rates. I know bonds were going crazy today. What's going on?
Yeah, so TNX, as we can see here on the chart, started exploding. It was up 5.1%. You can look at the 1-year daily chart and see how high the 10-year Treasury index has gotten. And CNBC has a really nice article here showing that it's the highest levels since 2018. So that's huge there. Obviously, the 10-year Treasury note is one of the obviously, it's like a benchmark rate. And then you obviously still have the 30-year Treasury bond too, which rose up today. So lots of these bonds are rising, Mike. And as we know, a lot of it has to do with what Powell said yesterday. So it seemed like yesterday that some of these bonds were going to start falling back off. But, today we saw the 10-year Treasury yield rip right back to the upside. So pretty crazy to see how everything's playing out, obviously. And yesterday was such a stark difference to what we saw today in the market overall that it was just a crazy move.
Right, very interesting. Tom, do you have any favorite setups in the market right now or any notable stocks that you're watching?
Yeah, I was really hoping to find some nice continuations today in the growth sector, but overall, as I start to look at stocks today, I'm really eyeing up stocks like Microsoft, Apple, Tesla, stocks like that. And I'm eyeing them up almost to the downside here. I hate to say that, but these stocks are starting to turn over in some pretty big ways today. And I don't think that what Powell said yesterday with the Feds raising rates by 50 basis points and everything is going to sit too well with these big tech stocks. So I have a bad feeling that we're going to continue this downtrend maybe for the next couple weeks. I hope I'm wrong, but that's kind of the setup I'm looking for here. And I think that we might need to start looking at some plays like GLD and different things like that. What sucked though, Mike, is that GLD was also falling off today with the market, believe it or not. So that was interesting to see, but I do think that gold will still be a pretty good hedge over the next couple of weeks and months as we still go through this time of high inflation. I think that'll still do pretty well. And as we know, oil also was kind of all over the place today. So maybe some of these oil stocks might be pretty good pickups. I know Oxy was one of the only stocks green today.
Alrighty. With that being said, I just want to give a giant shout out to our member of the day, Chris E. Huge shout out to Chris on YouTube. Thank you so much for all the support from over the past couple years. Tom and I really appreciate you and thank you for everything. But Tom, let's get right into these momentum plays for tomorrow. With the first one, we have Microsoft to the downside.
Yeah, poor Microsoft here. Go ahead and make them break below 274 tomorrow.
All right, with the next one, we have Apple to the downside.
Yep, Apple. Go ahead and make them break down below 155.
All right, and with the last one, we have AI, but to the upside, it appears to be in like a decent, I don't want to say a decent uptrend, but it's been holding its ground pretty well lately, and it has been making consistent lows, and they've been trending a little bit higher.
Yeah, they have. I will say, look at all these bounces down here off of this support around 1650 to 1675. I think that if we see AI maybe start to break above this little uptrend we saw intraday, maybe above like 1740 or 1750, then I think we might be able to see a nice intraday move. That's a pretty big support here.
Alrighty, so Tom, so the main level, what do we have for the upside?
Yep, just look at 1750. I think that'll be the main one. The high of like this little uptrend intraday today was 1740, but I think 1750 will be the best level to look at given all the bounces we saw earlier in the week.
All right, so we are looking at AI for a potential day trade to the upside tomorrow, only if it breaks above the level Tom listed. And then we are watching Apple and Microsoft for potential day trades to the downside tomorrow, only if they break below the levels Tom listed. Guys, keep in mind today was a very red day in the market. Just be careful with any day trades tomorrow morning. There will be a ton of volatility considering all of the crazy movement we saw today.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The volatility can be all over. And look at what we saw this morning. The market was flying up yesterday. I saw a lot of people that were buying calls and stuff like that. And then, the market turned right back over this morning. The same thing can happen tomorrow. The market might start ripping back up or, obviously we could keep selling off, but it's going to be a crazy day, Mike. Hopefully, I honestly just want to see a good continuation either way. If we start moving back to the upside, as long as it has a nice move throughout the day, I'll take it. As long as it breaks below like 155 with some momentum, I'll take that too. So it just depends what the price action gives us. But like you said, be very careful. It's definitely getting crazy out there, guys, with all these rate hikes and everything. And it's pretty funny to see Powell walking back his transitory statements.
Yep, true that. Well, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. There's a ton of crazy volatility in the markets right now. Be on the lookout for DraftKings earnings tomorrow morning. Besides that, let's have a great end to the week.